May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, doing our part to preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his. And anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today we have a guest, one Lawrence Burns. Lawrence used to come to Tassajara when he was a kid with his mother, Marilyn McDonald. And Marilyn was fascinated with Tassajara history. And she created a scrapbook and made a Xerox copy of it, photocopy of it, and for the office at Tassajara. And that scrapbook we ended up putting together into a little book called A Brief History of Tassajara. And Larry and I worked on it with Peter Ford and Andrew Main. The ball got rolling with a guy called Mark Stromberg, who digitized the book, scanned it, put it all together, I think in Microsoft Word, and did the first draft of the book. Maryland's archives all ended up at UC Berkeley Bancroft Library, which we wish he hadn't done because then we couldn't get to them. So we couldn't rescan anything or maybe use something that wasn't in the final book she made. We did it exactly like, pretty much, almost, not exactly, but very, very close to the photocopy she'd made that, was at Tassajara. She put 10 years of work into that book. Lots of interviews, lots of material, looked into a lot. And we are proud to have it as a Cuke Press book, the first Cuke Press book. Now we don't have access to any of the other materials she acquired or anything. That's okay. We got enough. I am no fan of university archives, but I'm sure they will preserve things longer. But once they get in there, it's hard to get to them. Anyway, we talk about all that in the podcast. And Larry's a professor now way up in northern Michigan. So, look, let's just give him a call after we've had our pause to meditate. So when you hear the bell, if you're of such a mind, hit pause and meditate or whatever for as long as you wish. And when you're through, hit unpause and we'll be there to hit the bell to end our meditation or whatever. And we'll give Larry Burns a call.
Good evening or good morning.
Yes, good evening and good morning. Hi, Larry. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. How are you?
Okay, okay. So you are in your Eastern Standard Time in Michigan?
Yeah, we're right up against Lake Michigan, so we're the farthest um, west that you can go. If it was the perfect world, we'd be in Chicago time. The line comes up like that, but they curve it to the lake, so we end
Oh,
up being on Eastern Standard Side. But it's just one of those geographical peculiarities.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So how you doing, and what are you up to these days?
Oh gosh, lots of good things. I mean, overall, I'm busy at work. I took on a new prep, so the honors college said we need a numerical literacy course, and I said, how about behavioral finance? Because we've wanted one for 20 years in the department, but we've never been able to hire you know, behavioral finance expertise kind of person. So they said, yeah, go for it. So I'm assembling a new course. It'll be winter of 24 when it first rolls out. So that's been kind of fun in a intellectual exercise kind of way to really devour literature. I mean, I've been reading and chasing investment ideas for 30 years, so it's nothing new, but it's more formalized. So that's good.
And what is this course again?
Behavioral finance, which is really the integration of psychology and economics. And so it's the decisions, kind of like Kahneman Tversky's work, thinking fast, thinking slow, different systems, the way in which the mind can use heuristics or shortcuts to its advantage in lots of circumstances. But when it comes to financial decisions, as an exemplar, we often see people get hit with biases or where the algorithms don't work so well. They end up making choices which are less than optimal. But the argument would follow, a lot of the economic theory was predicated on rational choice and best decisions and stuff like that. So the behavioral finance guys came in about 20 years ago, really started picking up a lot of steam, going, economic theory is predicated on an artificial perspective of how people actually make choices, especially under any kind of pressure. So they really started trying to dismantle the different kinds of bias, confirmation bias, or self-fulfilling prophecy, or any of those really some simplistic cognitive biases which interfere with people's abilities to make better decisions. And so that's the behavioral, finance kind of model. What do we do with irrational choices or less than optimal decisions? And so it's a field of inquiry it's still going pretty strong, but now it's more from behavioral finance to neuroeconomics, or there are some other phrases that people are trying to introduce that are even more molecular, I suppose, looking at hormones or looking at other physiological characteristics that even allow us a different level of explanation for what gets between us and making good decisions. So
Wow.
I like it. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It yeah, that's dizzying. That was great. And well, so what? You're a professor, right?
Yes, I am.
At what university?
Grand Valley State University. So Grand Valley is the location. There was a valley there. Sometimes you'll see Grand Valley. We're on the other side of the Grand River, which comes east, rolls westward across Michigan, and that it exits into Lake Michigan here in Grand Haven. So the Grand River runs through our town and actually runs through Grand Rapids as well. And the University of Grand Valley is actually on the Grand River as well, in Kent County. So
Huh.
Grand Valley State University.
And are you in northern Michigan, right?
Well, it depends when you mean. So we're actually in sort of there's the Upper Peninsula, which is sort of ensconced in Canada. If you go over the top of Michigan, you'd end up in Wisconsin. going through the UP, the Upper Peninsula. We're in the Lower Peninsula, and then we're about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom, if you will. So with Mackinac Island and stuff, and the Mackinac Bridge and stuff, are at the very northern tip of this Lower Peninsula, and the Mackinac Bridge joins the Upper Peninsula with the Lower Peninsula. So it's kind of cool.
All right. But the reason I asked is there's a retired judge from northern Michigan who is a good friend of ours here in Bali. He spends about 3 months a year here. And so I was going to tell him where you lived.
Yeah, he'll know. You say Grand Rapids, and he'll say, "Yep, I know where that is."
All right. Well, and what type of professor are you? If what's your field?
Yeah. Well, the way the system works, you kind of get launched with a general PhD in psychology, but the underlying training is in clinical psychology. So clinical psychology, I'm a professor of clinical psychology and personality, if you will. Those are my two areas of. And health psychology under clinical is probably the coping, stress and coping, wellness, psychological well-being. Those sorts of pieces are the what forms of this clinical PhD.
Wow. And just reviewing briefly, stuff you've sent me in emails in the last years. It seems like you're also really interested in literature, philosophy, Eastern thought. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think some people have accused me of being the last Renaissance man, but I don't know if that's really going to fit. But yeah, so I do have a love of a wide range of amazing and interesting topics. So
yeah. Well, good. Well, I think your students are lucky. Now, you and I got involved in making a brief history of Tassajara. Is that the name?
Yeah,
A brief history of Tassajara, which was based on, was pretty religiously followed the scrapbook that your mother, Marilyn McDonald, made, who was a guest at Tassajara and for years, and she got interested in the history, and she did a great job. Oh my God, she interviewed all these people and got all these newspaper clippings and made a wonderful little scrapbook. And it wasn't little, actually, it was pretty extensive scrapbook that she just left in the office at Tassajara. I guess, was there a copy at home?
There was I think I had a binder version of the same thing, and then there were some handwritten notes and stuff. But she donated everything to the Berkeley Library, so I actually didn't have like the photographs or anything. Everything is in a series of boxes that she donated to the Hastings Library there at Berkeley.
Yeah,
so it's all there.
Yeah. I'm really against that, because once things get in these college libraries, you can't get to them so easy.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, well, you could file a request to take a look at your mom's box, maybe. And I was like, well, that doesn't help me. So
I know it's really I know it sounds good, but when David Schneider did a biography of Philip Whalen, he wasn't allowed to make photocopies of Whalen's material. At I guess Bancroft Library, UC Berkeley, same thing. He just like make handwritten notes, and so I mean it's just ridiculous. My approach, which was yours. I mean, that's what we did, was to make things available online and in concrete paper form, and Anyway, I'm sure that will evolve. I don't know. Everything always evolves. So, so tell me, how you knew people at Zen Center and you had some experience there. Can you take me back as far back as you can remember how that all happened?
Sure. You mean like the original introduction of me to Tassajara, or the people that I knew there, or Tate Street, or like
Yeah.
where
You
would
can
you like
go
to
back to
start?
your birth, man, if you have any prenatal
Yeah.
memories.
Yeah. Yeah. Shiny light or something. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I was always intrigued. My mom wrote in that book that she was there in like 71 or something like that with the Volvo, but I don't think it was much past that point that she brought us as kids at that point too. So it was way early in the story, but I couldn't pinpoint a year. I know that let's see, she said 71. I graduated in 76.
When were you
So
born?
somewhere between those two, 59.
Uh-huh.
And so I was there. I don't know. I think that Suzuki might have already passed away, or my earliest recollection is I thought I did see him there once. I thought he was there once when I was a really little kid.
Well, if you came in 71, you had a good chance to have seen him in the guest season. He was there quite a bit of the time in the guest season in 71, and he died December 4th of 71.
Yeah, so I'm not certain that I did, but I have a vague sense that I might have been there once, and he was walking the pathway in the other direction or something like that. But I also read so many of his lectures and stuff like that, so it's like his words are in my head. So did he say them? Did I hear them? I don't know. But somewhere in that interval, I guess the first person that I knew was Tommy. Dorsey was the first person that I sort of knew on a cross year basis. There and then at Page Street. So he sort of and Catherine Thanis was the other person I knew from both places. I knew her from both Tassajara and from San Francisco. So those were the two people that kind of I had continuity with over 5 or 10 year period, I guess, through the 80s. Yes, I was corresponding with Tommy through I guess 83 or 84, something like that. Then sort of I ended up traveling and seeing the world kind of thing. So we ended up not corresponding at that point. But yeah, so that was pretty much my thing. I did a stint there. I guess that's the right word for it. I thought I was going to be a monk, so I did sign up. I spent about 4 weeks back in 76. I just graduated. I was like, what should I do with myself? Like, I'll go to Tassajara and be a monk. And so I did give it my best for about 4 weeks, and I realized it was at 4 o'clock in the morning, and no, this is definitely not my idea. That was my mom's dream, not my dream. But I was lucky to figure that out early enough to go, nope. Then I traveled, which was my dad's dream. So, and I was like, no, that's not me either. Nope. So, so yeah, I have nothing but the fondest of memories of both working and also of being a guest in the cabin. So it was a wonderful, good full circle.
Yeah. Well, anything further you want to say about all that? I'd be happy to hear. Like, how old were you when you first went there? See, 59, 60.
I would have been, yeah, I would have been about 13 or 14.
Yeah.
I was young, but I don't know. I fell in love with Tassajara. It's the different way of approaching life, the different diet, the beauty of the place, without a doubt. The hot springs, the smell of the sulfur water, and like all those things were so profoundly intermixed into my own sort of worldview. Like I said, I kept a big box of the wind bells. I still have a handful of those in different boxes here. I read a lot of the stuff. I have 2 copies of Suzuki Roche's books. I've got a stack of your books next to his books, and also like, I don't know, it was a magical place for our family as a whole, not just for my mom, but we had different connections with it, each of us. So my sibs were younger and weren't as influenced by it, I guess, as I was. So I was like, ooh, this is an amazing way of looking at the world. And
well, if you came in 71, then we would have met because I met your mother in 71.
Yeah.
She was there. And I met, I was back in the summers of 74 and 75. And, as I recall, she was there then. I mean, because, but, I really don't know what are real memories and what are just planted in my mind from all that I've read and heard from people and everything. So.
Yeah. Ditto. I think it was a little late in 71. I think that's why I was like, I don't know if I saw Suzuki or just somebody who, may have been affiliated with may have been a visitor from Japan or something like that. The personage of it was being much appreciated, but it wasn't necessarily him. So a male person. That's all. But I think I was probably 72 or 73 was my guess. I don't think we went the very first trip. So yeah, it's just I don't have anything. I can't anchor it more specifically in time. I remember making the trip. It was kind of wild, but being a kid, I was like, oh, there's a cliff. Go figure.
And that's really neat that you got close to Isan, Tommy Dorsey.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's one of the most loved people from back then. But did he actually write you?
Oh, absolutely. I've got a couple of his postcards on my office wall at school. It's got one of the ones when the plum tree, when east meets west, and the such and such. I don't remember the quote exactly, and then it's got his lovely handwriting on the back. And
send me a scan,
one from him too.
Would you?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lovely.
Because he didn't write much.
Yeah.
So that's sort of neat. Yeah. And Catherine also. Yeah. Well, that's really nice you were close with them. Yes, I miss them. We lost Tommy too soon.
Yeah, he was an incredibly gentle soul and a very, I like the word ambulant, but I think that suits, like, he definitely could see and see place for joy. So
yeah,
it was
a
neat, almost but not quite mercurial, but definitely ambulant.
He had it seemed to me a good insight into people. He and I lived together at Tassajara. How long? Well, a year or I don't know. And that was great. I had the back room, in one of those cabins that, had the front room and the back room and then the toilet room and back, that sink. And he was in the front and I was in the back. Maybe in the guest season, we had to double up. We might have been in the same one. But it was great because he was so maternal, I'd wake up in the morning and he'd have hot chocolate and a cookie ready for me, a little tiny cookie before zazen. And I know I used to say to people that it seemed to me that Tommy had periods too. He'd get real bitchy about once a month.
Yeah, he did have his like bitchy streak, but he also did the same thing. He would go over across the street when the pastry. He'd go across the street to where the stuff was starting to come back with the Ben and Jerry's, like the ice cream sandwiches. It was one of his like he had a key to something or other where they were accepting. Oh, I got one for you. I was like, oh, thanks. So I did come into the city with some regularity and spend do an overnight there, and then on my way to wherever I was going. So that was kind of cool.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat. So, well, just keep going. Just tell me anything you want to tell me. Your life then, Uh, um,
Yeah,
how did it progress? Where were you born?
San Francisco.
Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, the first 10 years were in the Bay Area, and then we moved south to the Salinas Valley, and that's how we ended up in Gonzales, and then that's how she ended up talking from people from Watsonville and other places, and eventually located Tassajara via those different conversations. She's like, "Where's this place that people keep talking about?" So, yeah, so that's how we did that.
Oh,
Then I got a scholarship to Central America when I was 16 as a senior in high school, and then within the summer of my senior year, came back. Then I worked
where in
like a
Central
mad person.
America?
Honduras.
Ah, uh-huh.
In Tegucigalpa, the capital, was where I was located, and did that, and came back, and then saved my money, and then went back to Central America again because I really enjoyed the traveling. Went from Honduras all the way through. We took the bus. My best friend and I, we took the bus from Honduras through Nicaragua the night before the Sandinistas closed the border. So I was like machine guns and stuff. And I'm like, we were so young. They're like, stay in the hotel, do not go out into the streets. I'm like, okay, if you say so. Then the next day, the bus driver was scared, and we got out of Nicaragua. Like, then boom, they closed the
Wow.
border. So it's like pretty lucky. Then we stayed in Costa Rica for about 6 months. That was awesome. There was a family that was affiliated with the foreign exchange students that hosted me in Honduras, and so we stayed with another family in Costa Rica for about 6 months. And then we stayed in Panama for another 6 months, almost. So about a year all told. It was great. Then I flew back in 79. I guess I was 78. Must have been 78. Went back to school in Cabrillo College for 1 semester, then the Maritime Academy for 4 years, then San Francisco, then out to the South Pacific, then back.
South Pacific, where?
The island was called Tinian, so it's actually where they loaded the atomic bomb. That was the load site for that.
Tell me
plane.
the name of the island again.
Tinian, 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 Tinian Island. It's off of Guam.
Oh, are you saying that's where they loaded the atomic bomb for
Hiroshima.
on the Enola Gay?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Wow.
I mean, there was nothing there when I was there. It was just like really old asphalt roads that were pretty much overgrown by the jungle. But the locals knew the story. So.
Wow. Huh. Yeah.
Beautiful sea turtles. That's what I loved about the island: coral and sea turtles. So there was lots of.
Oh yeah, sea turtles are a prize in snorkeling and diving.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was in places you could go. There were a couple of little small bays off the west side of the island. So I would take a moped and angle my way back on those old service roads where the base used to be. But the roads were there, but nothing else was there. Then you just go to the jungle, and there's suddenly a cliff, and you're like, wow, that's cool. You look down in the water, and there'd be a sea turtle with a baby. Sea turtle is swimming along, just doing their thing. So that was amazing.
Wow. Yeah. I saw a really big one come up on a beach here. Actually, we're over at Seminyak, which is, a very popular beach. You go there about once every year. And a really big one came up. And then people came out and turned it around and made it go back in the water. Maybe it was coming in to lay eggs, and they were telling it, no, this is not a good place. You gotta go to a place where there aren't so many people. But I didn't know it. I just watched that happen.
They are amazing. They're so agile in the water. I was always so amazed. And the interplay between the I'm presuming the mom turtle, I don't know that for certain, but the larger parent turtle, singular, and the younger sea turtle was just really neat because the light would go through the water. I would just sit there for several hours on the toes over the edge of a cliff, just watching the Pacific Ocean slosh back and forth, and these two were out in this little miniature bay just doing their thing. It was really cool.
Turtle preservation's a big thing here. We just had dinner on the beach last night, right next to a turtle preservation place. They because it's so dangerous now. I mean, it's so difficult with so many people. They let young turtles get bigger there and then put them in the ocean, and they get pretty well funded. There's a number of them on the island, and there's laws against catching turtles for food, and people get caught and arrested for it. But I've seen a turtle in the water a few times.
Kind of cool. Yeah. I like the South Pacific was an interesting, lots of coral and octopus, all sorts of cool things underwater. So I did some diving, lots of snorkeling. Then I ended up back on the East Coast and trying to figure out what to do. So I was hired by a vineyard in New Jersey for a while. I was there for all told of 5 years, but about halfway up about 2.5 years in, I started going back to Rutgers, and that's when I got my a non-matriculated minor in psychology, because I decided I wanted to go back to grad school. But as a graduate of the Maritime Academy, I didn't have a single class in psychology. So they said, you seem like a great guy, but you don't have a single class in psychology. So to make yourself competitive at the graduate level, you have to have a minor in psychology. So it took me 2.5 years, and I did that. And then Stony Brook out on Long Island was where I went for my PhD. And I'm not a big city person. I think I was in New York City twice in the 4 years I was out on Long Island, so it's not a fan.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm much more of the trees and woods, which didn't exist out on Long Island. We went to the park, and it was a well-regarded local park, and it's like 3 acres with lots of old white pines, 150 years old, but under every tree was a human being, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so not like Mount Tamalpais, absolutely not at all. There was no privacy anywhere ever, so claustrophobia. But I was eager to be off that island and on my way. So went from there to Buffalo, did my internship in Buffalo, and then ended up here in Michigan. I was hired straight off the assembly line, I guess.
You went to Michigan because there was a job, probably, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I got a tenure track position offered. I had a couple of postdocs, and then I had the tenure track, and I was like, well, I could do a postdoc for 2 years and then be back on the tenure track looking for a job, or just take this job. I was like, yeah, I'll do it for it. Yeah. I mean, I was gonna do some interesting postdoc work, in particular with neuropsychology. I had some pretty good things lined up. So it was a tough trade because I thought I was going clinical, and I'd be certified. You have to do an additional 2,000 hours after you finish your graduate program. And I was just like, okay, I'll do that. But in taking this job, I had to forego the additional clinical opportunities, and so I did research and teaching, and I've come to love the teaching. It's its own form of group therapy. Every semester, a new group of people. It's capped at 20, so I've gotten pretty good at it. But so I didn't really end up not doing therapy, just doing it in a different way. But, so yeah, I do. I love my job. I don't think you get a better job than this. Getting paid to think and meet amazing people that have lots of questions, and
that's great.
It's one heck of a gift. Yeah, it is. Really is.
You're in the right place, doing the right thing. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Sometimes you get lucky and you fall backwards into something, and you're just like, I didn't know it, but wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you have anything more you want to share?
Well, when I told my wife that I was yakking with you, I sent her the picture of quiescence, and she goes, "You're all set." And I was like, "I don't know what to say." She goes, "Oh, tell me about your word." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Well, so we have a tradition going back, I don't know, about 10 years here, where Laura was yakking with a friend, and that friend a couple 10 years ago said, "You know what? We don't make New Year's resolutions. What we do is pick a word, and then we try to live that word for a year." And so I don't remember, but a couple 6 years ago, I couldn't just pick one, so I did grace and gratitude and intentionality and drop your rocks. which is like to let go of things and move on. And so, but since I had 4 of them, I did them for 3 years, and then last year I shifted to lead with grace after the sort of COVID experience, and I can share some examples of actually living that way. And then this year I was looking for a new word, and I was kind of hooked on the North Star, but I couldn't convert it. And then I was like, oh, well, yeah, the North Star was my idea of like finding some quiet. And
That's great.
doing my fundraiser, quiescence is a funny word. One of the invasive species that we're dealing with is a fungus. It goes underground, and it has this peculiar thing they observed back in 1962. One of the citations said these early researchers that this thing goes underground, has a period of quiescence. And I was like, oh, I like that word, but I like it in the context of sort of opening yourself up to the opportunity for some quiet. So I get up, as you know, at like 4 a.m, and I'm often just quiet or working on a poem or doing something artistic. And working this particular 2023 will be sort of trying to, you can't really be intentional about quiescence exactly, but you can put yourself in the right place and the right time for it. So
That's good. I know you get up early because you and I communicated so much in that book, an enormous amount. And that was quite a learning experience. Now, I know how to do all that stuff really cheap and quick, but that was quite a learning experience. But you and I would be communicating, and I go, my God, this is like 4:15 in the morning for him.
Yeah. I loved reading that. It was amazing. I thought you did such an amazing job of like maintaining the integrity of the original book, but also adding so much depth to it or converting it to an actual thing. It's I do literally, when I'm sitting at my desk, it's right there to my left. There's all the bookends, and there's that book is like right in the middle of them. And I often send you, like I said, a shout out, like, thanks a lot, man, for like converting this otherwise impossible to be done kind of task. No one could do what you did. You knew how to do it. So
yeah,
it happened. It's a beautiful book.
It was interesting the way it evolved. Is I got hold of Leslie at Jamesburg, Leslie James, who's been she's the what do they call it? She's sort of like the abbot of Tassajara, but they use another term. I don't try to keep up with all that stuff. I mean, I hear it, but anyway, I told her, I said, Leslie, I've just been thinking so much. It's one of these things I've been thinking about for years is, Marilyn McDonald's scrapbook in the office. And, really, can you go out and scan that thing for me? I want to get it online. It shouldn't be there in the office because Zen Center loses things. Zen Center is not good at continuity or preservation of that type. And she said, well, funny you'd say that, David. There was a guy who just did that. And what's his name? The guy who knew Marilyn.
Yeah. Mark, right? Was it Mark something or other?
Yeah, oh my
I'm
God,
not sure.
This is terrible. He deserves more credit than that.
Well, yeah. He's the one that talked my mom into putting that book in the Bancroft Library, so that introduced some complexities, but
yeah,
I'm sure he was well intended.
Yeah, but he did scan it beforehand.
That's true.
And so it was his idea to make a like a print on demand book. He'd done that with one thing. So I got in touch with you. I think Leslie gave me your contact. Were you in touch with Leslie any?
No, not.
Then
only
he
briefly.
did.
Like I think it was like when you and I were trying to figure it out, and he did too. Yeah.
Yeah, he got me in touch with you because I got in touch with him, and I said, "Oh, I'm really interested in that." And his idea was just to use the scans of the book as it is and make it into a print-on-demand book. And I looked at it, and then it was you and I were in contact, and I wrote you a note. I said, this is in no way ready to be a print-on-demand book. And we hurt his feelings.
Yep, that's correct.
Because, he backed out of the project then. And then Peter got involved, Peter Ford, who really, if you look at the Who Are We on Cuke Archives, he's the managing director, I think it's called now.
Yeah.
And I'm on special projects. Oh, God, he does a lot. But, daily. We're in contact multiple times every day. Any day we're not in contact is an unusual day. But and he's a really great detail person. I can be, but I'm sort of scatterbrained, and I don't know. You're really sharp, and so the three of us, put it together as good as we could. And it was a nightmare for me because I'd never done layout like that for a book. And I was using a Microsoft Word, which is not the way to do it. I know now. And so then Andrew Main had been involved with creating books and stuff and helping people. And he was a guy who, I'd known from Zen Center, who had worked on the Whole Earth catalog and in that, with that crowd. And and he'd been as soon as I started Cuke.com back, actually at the end of 98, he was there, sending me notes, this is misspelled or whatever, or making, suggestions. So I sent him a PDF of the book, and he just lambasted it. It was like what I had said about what Mark wanted. You can't put this on. This is, a piece of garbage. You have to get this in order. And after that, then he with us all working together, and we brought it up to a higher level. And the four of us had enormous amounts of contact for a long. God, that went on a long time. And I stayed up 2 nights in a row. I did not sleep. Katrinka was in America getting it all ready the last time. God, to go up. Man. And, David Rogers really is the person who knows the most about Tassajara history. He's written a number of things. They're on Cuke.com. He put together a scrapbook that he showed Marilyn. And, he'd really gotten into all that early history and stuff. And his scrapbook is giant. And it's on Cuke.com now. He updated it like last year or something. And so it's a really good update. But his doesn't get into people like hers does, and isn't presentable as an ongoing story. It's just like every newspaper clipping there ever was, Have you seen that?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, anyway, if you just go to the Tassajara History Party, Cuke.com, he's got on that. And when Marilyn saw that, she wanted to integrate things she learned from what he'd done into her book, but she never did it. And that, I think, is something. I think there could be a new edition. I don't have time for it. I don't know when I ever would. But it's just something I think would be good to hers has a sense of story and continuity, and all the interviews with people is very personal. His is more like
Yeah.
an archive of newspaper clippings and things. But his articles are great. There's like maybe 5 of them, like one is an article on the first stage in Tassajara. It just, and integrating the two would be great. And there's other stuff happening. There's a woman who's doing a program for Zen Center called Tassajara Tales, and she gets in, and David will come on and help. And I've participated in one of them, and she gets into the geology and to the Indian history and all sorts of stuff. And I'm working on a book called Tassajara
really cool.
Stories, too. But it's just about the early Zen Center period. Anyway, so I just wanted to say there is, for pre-Zen Center Tassajara history, I think there can be a second edition.
That'd be, really interesting at some point, maybe, if you redistribute the workload. Yeah.
Yeah. We went over everything so carefully, and especially with Andrew involved, it's like fonts and margins and the way things lined up. And
yeah, he was amazing. The spacing at the bottom of a thing, and whether that's a M dash or an N dash or whatever.
Yeah.
Dash or,
all these details.
He was amazing.
Yeah, he was, and he was a taskmaster.
The measure of the space. The space was wrong. The distance between here and there, and you're like, wow, I didn't even see that. And you're like, yeah, damn. Microsoft Word kept putting in the wrong spacing between the lines and stuff, and you're like, I can't get it to behave. So yeah, he's like, nope, another error.
Oh, there's and the laptop I was working with was like 2 laptops ago. Well, maybe it was my prior PC. It wasn't big. The PC I got after that was like way stronger, faster, had more room, bigger hard drive and everything. Toward the end of that book, I had to wait so long for everything to save and everything. It was like I was doing it on a rickety old model that really could hardly handle it. But it worked.
Man.
Good. Well, that's a great relief. Thank you.
It was fun working with you. Yeah. Yeah, that too. No, truly. I learned a lot too. Like you said, it was a learning experience. So it was the same thing for me. So, and in the end, my summary of the book was it's a tale of many hearts. At the heart of the story is the tale of many hearts. That was my bumper sticker for it. So, because each of the people that invested some into their I want this to work, or this is my dream, or how it ought to go, or how it could go from Mrs. Quilty on, or on forward and backwards. And so, including each of the guests that she interviewed. So, in the end, each person she managed to, I think, to do something kind of neat by capturing some small piece of what it was that this thing meant to them. And that was her inquiry. Why are you here, kind of thing. So I thought at the heart of the story is the story of many hearts. That was my conclusion. And I like that about that book.
That's very nicely said.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have pretensions. It doesn't take itself to be too serious. It's a story about a place, but it doesn't pretend to be the Britannica Encyclopedia or something. It's a qualitative sort of endeavor of love. I mean, she really loved Tassajara, and she really wanted to know more too. So it said her and said us, and you did such a magical job with it. So it is what it is, but it's really something to be proud of. Like, I'm happy for her. I'm glad we were able to do it.
Yeah. Well, I certainly didn't do it by myself. Each one of you were really good at details. I miss things, but with the 3 of you, that didn't matter because you all would catch it if I didn't. Yeah. Well, that was great. And, and then, The very prestigious book club in San Francisco did that event that
Yeah.
David Rogers went to and spoke. And your sister, who lives in where, Novato?
Yeah, she was living in Novato at that time. She's in Portland now, finishing up a master's in fine arts of writing. So she's following her passions a bit. But at that point, she was still doing the writing thing from North Bay, and she did go into the city and did some readings, and she had a little poster and stuff like that. So they were very kind and receptive to her.
Yeah, I think it's called the Book Club of California. And it's
right.
like over 100 years old. And I'm a member of the Institute for Historical Studies, which is well, they say their headquarters are in San Francisco. They have no headquarters, incidentally. They say they're located in San Francisco, but sometimes I think it's really a Berkeley organization that was sort of started so that independent historians could get nonprofit status. And it's my secular fiscal sponsor. Like there's a very noble gentleman that makes a nice donation every year to Cuke Archives, and he works for Genentech, and he can't give to a religious organization. So I use the Institute for Historical Studies for him, and it was my original one. But then the Pacific Zen Institute, which has nothing to do with Suzuki's lineage. It's just a Zen group I'm close to, and it's small. They did it. But the Book Club of California is like, it's it's like, and the Institute for Historical Studies, to be associated with them was an honor, because that's serious historians.
Yes, I agree. I think the gentleman was incredibly gracious and very kind to both my sister and David too. So
it's a member of the IHS that arranged it, and he's he got all sorts of books to put in libraries, and it was very nice of him. Really appreciated it. I'll dig his name up and stick it in here, because I should honor him. Well, all right. Now, is there anything else you would like to touch on? There's really no limit to what you can talk about.
No, I guess.
You think we've covered enough ground here?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I pretty much so, and in the sense of just expressing my gratitude, and I can't say that enough. It was an honor working with you, and you've been incredibly patient. I had a lot to learn, and
you all were patient with me.
All of the Library of Congress things and all these complexities with the filling this and that and that. Oh my gosh, it's just been lots of learning experiences, but we've navigated it, and things are going pretty well. So.
Oh yeah, learning experience. Well, thanks for bringing that up. First, we made a nice book and actually printed books, which, cost money, and then learn things about that. Like if a book comes back, they charge you at the cost of the book to restock it. And, it's in a warehouse. Oh God, that was expensive. Oh, that. And so, and we couldn't get out of there. There was like a year and a half or something. We had to be involved with them when they made actual books. A friend of mine in publishing had recommended them. They're real good. But, this was a book that had a limited market, and also there was no promotion, there was no advertising.
Yeah.
So as soon as I could, I made it into a Amazon. Well, I made it into a print on demand book to go on KDP, which is Amazon and Ingram.
Which is a stroke of genius, but
a
lot of doing to make that happen.
So now I've got 5 print on demand books, I think. 2 of mine, 1 of a friend. 3 of mine. One of a friend's poetry from here, an American Buddhist monk who just called me right now. I just hit no. Sorry, he's calling me again. No, decline. But anyway, so for those, I learned. You don't have to spend much of anything. But of course, the ones that were made by the company that did it were higher quality, but the others are fine. Yeah, that was and that all the things to learn in all that. And my attitude was, I don't want to learn all this stuff, but I had to.
Necessity is the mother of invention, or something like that.
Right, and that's true in the websites and blogs and podcasts, audio. But I've made 3 audiobooks now. I just keep having to learn things. And I like, there's, in Japan, they've got a phrase, I forget now, lifelong learning. But sometimes I go, okay, can't I have a break?
No, you're definitely agile and active. So,
well,
you, man, like, that's amazing.
I loved your description when we started off of the classes you've got, and look, as soon as I can get to a stopping point, I'll come take one of your classes in Michigan.
Yeah, well, I'd always be glad to share the syllabus with you or any of the readings, because that's where the process is. But yeah, that'd be lovely. I mean, truly,
all right,
really a neat experience, because a lot of fun.
Yeah, well. It's really been good talking with you. I'm honored by your
invitation.
Huh?
Yeah, ditto. I really appreciate it. I'm honored by your invitation for a conversation, because I know you're busy.
Oh, well, I appreciate your agreeing to it. It seemed to me a neat thing to add to the podcast. You have a unique place in the, I call it Cuke Archives, like doing our part to preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his. So, and I have a wide understanding of all that. So you have a unique role in this this saga.
It is a kind of neat. It certainly built a lot inside me. Like, I internalized a lot of those experiences and a lot of the wisdom and that way of looking at the world. So not only my mom benefited, but so did I. I just loved it. It suited me just really well. So
yeah, and we've benefited from you, so I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, you take care, and we'll be in touch now and then. And
ditto. I'll reach out to you if something comes this way. But it was a pleasure talking to you, and I'll look forward to talking again in the future. Yeah.
So take care, Larry.
Have a wonderful day ahead of you, and I'll thanks again.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So thank you most kindly, Larry Burns. Really appreciate it. That was interesting. It was nice reminiscing with you. And I look forward to our future engagements. You're still the postmaster of Cuke Archives. And I'm sure you will be available for other advice and counsel. Oh yeah, you were one of the people who picked your favorite vignettes for Zennish right now, which helped me to decide which vignettes to use by seeing what some others thought. So until next time, this is DC, Poobah of Cuke Archives and Cuke Audio, coming to you from Sleepy Sanur with Doggy Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.